21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
One thing about me, I have a very interesting story. I started out fifth in my class from the bottom, and I wound up being the trial lawyer of the year 3 times in Orange County, 1 time in California, 1 in the top 10 in the United States, and I've got victories that are the largest in 4 different areas of the law. What caused me to do that? How can I do that? I can do it in a way that can help you. Hard work, persistency, never give up, and don't procrastinate. Do everything that comes to mind. Make a list and follow up on everything. And don't be afraid to miss things like parties or weekends or nights. Your focus should be strong in getting your job done. At the same time, you have to pay attention to your family so you don't lose sight of what's really important to you. I had a case I took over from one of my associates, and he was getting nowhere with the opposition. They only offered us about $500,000 on a $2 million case. So I took it over, and as I got involved, I discovered a $300,000 fraud. So now we have a complaint going to the trial with a $2 million breach of contract, a $300,000 fraud. And as I called witnesses, I learned more about the operation between this company, Flextronics, and my client, Beckman Coulter, and how Flextronics had defrauded my client repeatedly. I amended my complaint 7 weeks into the jury trial to add 2 additional causes of action, both for economic duress based upon different acts. The jury came back. They gave me the $2 million breach of contract on the first cause of action. They gave me the $300,000 on the fraud that I had discovered, plus another $1.25 million in punitive damages. And on the last 2 causes of action that I added 7 weeks into the jury trial, they gave me $180 million in punitive damages and $750 million in punitive damages on the last one. It was the highest verdict in the country's history in 2004 at that point. It was a great testament to justice in California and also a great testament to hard work and perseverance, because that's what I had leading up to this trial. And I worked extremely hard. I gave up nights and weekends to make sure I had everything right. But when you do that, when you walk into court and you have done so much, you know you're prepared, you've done everything, you don't have anything in the back of your mind saying, damn, I wish I had done that. You come off like an 800-pound gorilla when you come and see the jury. The jury can read the confidence in you. And when you go up and speak to them during jury selection, you want to make friends with them. And what I did, that's a nice little trick that I always do, the judge will speak to the jurors and introduce them to the trial process. It takes about 15 or 20 minutes. During that period of time, I'm going down the line, memorizing all of their names. So when I go up there, I have certain questions I want to ask the jurors, but rather than say juror number 4, I will say their name. And I'll ask juror number, whatever, I don't want to say the names right now, but juror Mr. Gonzalez, how do you think about this? And then Ms. Smith, what do you think about Mr. Gonzalez's comment? What I've just done there is, 1, I've formed a relationship with them using their name. And I also have alerted everybody that I'm not going down the line, juror number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm bouncing around, so they all have to be paying attention. I'll ask a juror, like juror Smith, what did you think about juror Gonzalez's comment? So now it's like they're all alert that they can be called out at any time. So I think that's a very important trait. 1, you have to work your butt off, but you have to do everything you possibly can. And you have to have a great deal of respect for the court and for the jurors. And you have to believe in your case. And if you know your facts and you believe in your case, they will believe in you. And if you make relationships with them during the selection, then they will want to believe you during the opening statement. And that basically is a key, one of the keys to my success. When I was younger, I was not somebody that was picked out to succeed. In fact, quite the opposite. And I graduated number 5 from the bottom in my high school class. I was number 168 out of 172. I worked construction for a couple of years, chopping down trees with a McCulloch chainsaw. Until I realized, what am I doing? My parents told me I'd be a good lawyer, but I never really tried. So I decided to go to college. When I went to college, I thought, now I'm up against all these smart folks. And I got straight A's in college. I went to law school, finished in the top 10 of my class. But I always had a chip on my shoulder. I always thought, I had that from youth that I was really not good enough. So I had to try harder. So what drove me to always try harder is when I had my opposition, I used to put them on a pedestal, and I would not intentionally, just unintentionally, I would look at them as being, if not better, more powerful or something. So I'd fight and prepare to beat that guy. And when they showed up in trial, they were not Goliath. They were not on a pedestal. They were human. And I was prepared to take down superhumans. So when the results I got was because I over prepared. Maybe not over. I prepared as much as I needed to, as much as I needed to get the confidence for myself so that I could accomplish the job. And that's the key to my success. I had that 934 million jury verdict, unanimous. I also had a $50 million first injury settlement, which was at the time the highest in U.S. history. I had an insurance bad faith case, my first big case back in like 1992 for 58 million against farmers for insurance bad faith. I had an employment case for the Orange County Register for $38 million, which of course the largest in Orange County history. So I have the largest verdict in Orange County history, 4 different areas of the law. I was both plaintiff and defense. It didn't make a difference to me. If I was hired, I was going to do the job. Many lawyers, they only do plaintiff work or they only do defense work. I do whatever came in the door. And I think that made me a stronger lawyer. It gave me the ability to perceive from both sides of the fence. I think that is what accounts for many of my victories. I formed my law firm on St. Patrick's Day, 1984. I had worked for 2 large law firms before, one in Hawaii, one in Newport Beach. I had developed a client following, and I thought, now's the time to open up my own shop. I grew that firm to 28 attorneys. I was voted Trial Lawyer of the Year 3 times by Orange County, super lawyers. So I have many, the California Assembly, the Senate. I've got honors more than I can shake a stick at. But what I really got is I have the ability to help others become better lawyers. So now I formed Callahan and Blaine, but now I work with Callahan Consulting Group. What I do is I help other lawyers strategize on trial strategy, practices, and whatnot. Also, I help them devise a way to be creative in their own case. The key to my success, in large part, has been very creative. I think outside the box. I do things other people don't think about. If you know all the rules of the road within the box, then it's okay to go outside the box and see what you can do creatively. So I do that. And with Callahan Consulting Group, I provide that help to attorneys throughout the United States. In addition to that, part 2 of the Callahan Consulting Group does, clients contact me looking for an attorney. Now, just recently, I had a client looking for an attorney in Detroit in a divorce setting. So I did some research. I found out who was the best. I interviewed 2 of the attorneys. I then set up an interview for my client with these 2 attorneys and let them discuss things. If there's a question I could help on, I helped on. And after that, then the client would confer with me about which attorney he would like to retain. If he has his opinion made up, great. If you want some support from me, I provide it. So I do that a lot, not just in divorce cases and business cases and PI cases and all throughout the United States. I help clients find the right attorney in their community, in their specialty. And I must tell you, I've had 100% success thus far. I have told um, the clients, if you ever want to come back to me, if you need more help, call me. I'm still available. But rarely do I have to get very deeply involved. Sometimes a couple of phone calls just to make sure the communication is consistent. But other than that, it's been working out very, very well. The way I get paid for that, the attorneys pay me a referral fee if the client retains them. Simple. It's very common. And when I help attorneys strategize on a case, I charge them an hourly rate, not the hourly rates I used to charge, was well over $1,000 an hour, because my market that I had in Southern California could pay that. In this situation where I'm just trying to help attorney, usually somebody's got 5 to 10 years experience, I charge half of that amount. And if they think they didn't get the service, fine, they don't have to pay me. I make that right up front. If you don't believe I provided a service, you don't have to pay. No one so far has said, oh, I don't want to pay you. Everybody has been stand up so far. And I've been doing this for the last 3 years. I can give young lawyers a lot of tips actually, about how to deal with insurance companies, for example. Let's say that you're involved in a lawsuit and your client has been sued, and your client has some money, but not enough money to do a real strong defense. Well, what you want to do is get your own insurance company to stand behind you and defend you. But how do you do that if the complaint doesn't allege any causes of action that would be covered under the policy? Well, I'll tell you one little trick. Here's what you can do. You send out a request for admissions to the other side. Please admit you have not suffered any damages for A, B, C, or D, all of which would have been covered under the policy. And lawyers, being what they are, they deny. They won't admit a thing. They go, deny, 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 deny. Well, fine. Now you send them a set of interrogatories. Based upon your denial, state all facts that support the fact that you did suffer these damages. Now the lawyer's in a jam, so they make up stuff to say they really did suffer all these damages. Now I take that answer, I go to the insurance company, and I say, look, your policy says you would cover all these things. And the law says if there's a potential that a claim that is covered exists, you must defend it. If there's just a potential, and because I got the answer to interrogatories establishing the potential, I can then force the insurance company, my own insurance company, to pay the cost of my defense, which then works to my client's benefit because that same money goes to pursue that defendant. So it works out well. Good way to get paid. There's a couple of cases that demonstrate creativity. They're not necessarily the largest cases, but they'll give you a good insight in the way I think. I had a client, SBA lender, who lent money to a company in Irvine, California, and the company defaulted on the loan. The client says, well, what are we going to do? I would go to court and sue to get our collateral back. I said, if you do that, likely your collateral is going over the border. So what I did is I prepared a document called Notice of Repossession. And I put it on legal size paper, not 11-inch paper, but 14-inch paper. I made it look like an official document. I signed it. It had my signature notarized. And now it looks perfect. I hired a guy with a video camera. This is before everybody had a video camera on their phone. Came down from Los Angeles. And then I got a person from the police department, the Irvine Police Department, Officer Cluck, to come with me. I hired a flatbed truck and a forklift on it. We drove up to the back of the factory and we walked like an arrow right into it. Me in the center, photographer guy, video guy on the right, Officer Cluck on the left. And I hand this notice of repossession to a person and said, look, if you point out to me all the collateral that belongs to the SBA, I will let you go. But if you don't, you're going to go on down with the president of this company. He goes, well, yeah. He starts pointing out everything that is collateral of the SBA. And then our forklift goes and he picks up stuff, putting on the flatbed truck until our forklift ran out of gas. But fortunately, he had pointed out a forklift as our collateral, so we used that collateral to pick up our forklift, put it on the flatbed truck. We loaded everything up and we left. 2 hours later, I get a call from the attorney for the company. And they said, "What did you do?" I said, "Well, it was a self-help repossession under the UCC. What, you mean to tell me all they had to do is say no? Yes, all they had to do is say no. So he goes, well, congratulations on your state. Now that's not in the law books. That's being created. There was nothing fraudulent about it. It was a self-help repossession under the UCC, and I even cited the code section in my notice of repossession. So that's one element of creativity. I can share another one if you want one. There's one case. This is up in Stockton, a company called Diamond Walnut, which is the largest company in Stockton, California. And my client manufactured goods that were shipped to the construction site that the contractor applied to the roof. And other stuff is kept inside the warehouse. So I said, okay, for us to get this back, we can drive over there. Can you go pick up all those barrels, drive them around the block, and drop them off again? Because he forgot to serve his 20-day notice. In order to have a mechanic in California, you have to serve a notice on the owner that you have supplied materials, and he didn't do it. So he could not have a mechanic leave. But they said, no, all these barrels are in a warehouse and I can't get out. So I thought about that. And I thought somebody told me that the client who bought this from them bought it on credit. So I looked at the UCC, and it turns out if you sell goods on credit under the UCC and you're not getting paid, you can demand repossession and you get theoretical repossession of the goods. Once I got theoretical repossession of the goods, I then released them by a letter, and they never left the warehouse. So then I sued on my mechanic lien, and Diamond Walnut thought I was crazy because they never left the warehouse, never did a 20-day notice. So we went to court. I won. Diamond Walnut had to pay twice. I told them, pay me, just pay me. But they didn't. That's creativity. If you've been listening to what I've said, you can probably gather this. I prepare extensively for everything. And also, I'm very, very creative in what I do. I make sure that I'm going to win. And fortunately, I have. So if anybody wants that kind of assistance, either trial strategies, or they like to have a lawyer who thinks like I do and I can help them find that lawyer, they can contact me. They can go to callahanconsulting.com. They can use my email, dan@callahanconsulting.com. They can even call me on my cell phone, because if I don't recognize the number, I don't answer. And if they leave a message, I listen, and it's somebody that I'll call them back. So I'm not afraid to give out my cell phone number, and it's 949-584-4434. The actual office number, which I don't use all that often, is 888-570-0000. That's the official number for Callahan Consulting. Someone will answer that, take your information, and route it over to me. But really, my experience is, I just give you my cell phone number, and you leave a message, I'll listen.
21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
Imagine a space where triumphs, trials, and tales of entrepreneurship come alive. Welcome to the 21st Century Entrepreneurship Podcast, a gold awarded journey hosted by Martin Piskarik, connecting with listeners in 95 countries and ranking in the top 0.5% of all podcasts. Join our exclusive community, elevate your perspective, and embark on the path to success.